In this lesson, we're going to continue discussing paragraph formatting. If you'd like to follow along, go under the File menu to Open, and in the Sample Files folder, scroll down to 0707, Doing the Impossible with Paragraph Rules, and just click Open. Paragraph rules are stroked lines above and or below a paragraph, and as paragraph formatting, these rules can be saved as part of a paragraph style. One of the nice things about them is the rules actually move with the text. It's part of the text formatting. Why don't we jump right into applying some paragraph rules? But before we do, go to your zoom tool and just click and drag across the width of your margins to make the type a lot bigger. To begin, I'm going to go to my type tool and just click in that pull quote. And I want to add a paragraph rule above and below to make that pull quote into kind of like a graphic on my page. The reason why I'm just getting an insert point as opposed to selecting the entire paragraph, well, there's a couple of reasons. One is paragraph formatting, so if I click anywhere in a paragraph, I could apply that formatting to the entire paragraph. But secondly, and more important, is if I select my paragraph, it's much harder to see the rules while the type is selected. So I'm going to get an insert point, go to the Options menu of the Paragraph panel, and go to Paragraph Rules, and it opens the Paragraph Rules dialog box. Why don't we start with a rule above? To make it work, all I have to do is check Rule On. And I also have to make sure that Preview is checked. I can change the weight, if I wanted, of that rule. If I click the pop-up menu to the far right of the field, I can make it a lot thicker or even thinner. I'm going to leave it at 1 point for now, but I am going to change the color. So I'm going to change the color of the rule in my color pop-up, which has all of the colors that I've saved to my swatches panel. I'm going to choose black. Still doesn't look like all that much, but why don't we continue going through the settings? I can choose the type of rule that's being used. Besides a solid rule, you can see there are various thick rules and thick-thin rules. There are dashes, there are dots, there's hashes, all kinds of different kinds of strokes that I could use. I'm going to leave it for now at the solid stroke. Now, it doesn't look like much yet, and that's because I need to offset it from the baseline of the first line of text upwards. Being that it's a rule above, a positive offset will move it up. Kind of nice. Why don't I leave it right where it is? I could also choose the width of my stroke. Is it going out to the column or to just the edge of the text? I'm going to stick with column. Maybe I don't want that rule to go out to the full width of the column. I could do a left and a right indent if I want. I can click my up arrow next to left indent, and you can see that it's moving it in slightly. Why don't I do exactly the same thing on the right side? And I think we're ready to do the rule below. But before I leave the rule above, I'm going to select my left indent. And I'm just going to copy it, Command-C or Control-C. And the reason that I'm doing that is you can't see rule above and rule below settings at the same time. So you're really starting all over again. First, let me check Rule On. And you can see I end up with a red rule that's 1 point. I know that I want to change the color to black, so let me do that. And I know that I also have a left indent and a right indent, but I've already forgotten what it is. I'm just going to paste in that number that I copied. So I'm going to hit Command or Control V, and there it is. And now I'm going to hit my Tab key to go to the next field and paste that same number into my right indent field, and click outside the field to apply it. Now I have to offset it. As a rule below, it too is starting at the baseline, but of the last line of text in the paragraph. And because it's a rule below, a positive offset is going to move it further below. So let me click my up arrow to move it down. Seems a little strange at first, but that's the way it works. So I think I'm happy with my pull quote look. I'm just going to click OK. And the first thing I would do, save it as a paragraph style. One of the things that's really nice about these rules, if I were to add copy, how about I add an extra paragraph here? And I hit a paragraph return, you can see that the rules actually move with the text. It is part of the text formatting. Let me hit delete. And you can see it will move up and down with the text. Let's do something a little bit more fun. I'm going to click in the subhead that says subhead in a rule. What we're going to do is make a very thick rule that our subhead is going to drop out to white. So we're going to have a white subhead inside of a rule that's some other color. Let me go under my options menu, the paragraph panel, to paragraph rules, and I'm going to use a rule below, and I'm going to turn it on. And it's at the baseline of my text. I'm going to make it a lot thicker. How thick should I make it? Well, I can see in the control panel, because I have an insert point in my text, it actually says 24 points. Well, I want to make it actually thicker than the text, so it has a comfortable amount of space in the rule above and below the text. So I'm going to make it, how about 28 points? And as soon as I click off of it, I have a very thick black rule. Well, right now, if I have black text and I have a black rule, I'm not going to see that text too well. So instead of the text color, I'm going to choose red. And let me offset it up. But it's a rule below. How do I offset it up? I have to use a negative offset. Let me click my down arrow to move it up. Because it's a rule below, I have to use a negative offset to move it up above the baseline. What if I wanted my subheads to drop out of a rule? So eventually I'm going to make this type white, but I wanted the rule to not come out to the full width. Maybe I want to do it somehow to the width of the subhead. Well, I can't do that. In the width pop-up, instead of column, I'm going to do text. So it's making the rule to the width of the text. But it doesn't look all that comfortable sitting right on the edge of the text. So maybe what I'll do is use a negative left indent. So it's moving it out. Let me do the same thing on the right side. Well, that's kind of cool. Let me click OK. And of course, the first thing I'm going to do is save this formatting as a paragraph style so I can use it again and again for each one of my subheads in my document. Well, let's do something really crazy. Let's break the rules. Let me just scroll over a little bit and get an insert point in that green type. And now let's go under the options menu of the paragraph panel to paragraph rules. And I'm going to start with a rule below. I'm going to just turn it on. And I'm going to make it a lot thicker. How about 20 points? And instead of the text color, I'm going to make it, how about purple? So I have a very thick purple rule, maybe too thick. Why don't I make it 12 points instead? Then I have to offset it. I want it further below, and it's a rule below already. So let me make it a positive offset, which will move it further below. Okay, so we're kind of getting there, but I want to have a fairly large left indent. How about 1.25 inches? Maybe even a little bit more. How about I'll do 1.5? And then I'm going to do the same thing on this side, 1.5. So I have something that almost looks like a square. So I have this rectangle, purple rectangle. What else can I do? Maybe I want to have a rule above that actually goes through the center of this purple rectangle. Why don't we try that? I'm going to go to rule above, turn it on, and I'm going to change the color to red. It's a rule above, so I would have to use a negative offset to move it down. Let me do that. And that is really kind of cool. It's the kind of thing that as soon as you're done with it and you click OK, because you have impossible settings here that are very difficult to remember, you would always save it as a paragraph style. and so you can use it again and again. We're going to continue to discuss paragraph formatting in the next lesson.